guys were young in this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and you know, that's another thing. When you young, man, you know, it's fast, man. It's drugs and rock and roll, man.
Russell Neal shot to fame in the 90s with the R&B group High Five. But now, more than 20 years later, he's making news for another reason. One that has people in shock.
Did you know that High Five members were not who we thought they were? This popular R&B group from the 90s gave us smooth vocals and hit songs. But behind the fame, there were secrets and surprises. From the death of the lead singer, Tony Thompson, who died from a drug overdose, to Russell Neal, who was arrested and charged with killing his wife in the most brutal way.
You sat there with her for 2 days to make sure her life was gone. And then you decided to turn yourself in.
These kids were caught in the middle of management drama and its frequent changes in the group's lineup.
We made a decision to, to go to another record label, and that probably, looking in retro, that wasn't the best decision for us.
How did things go so wrong? The truth is darker than you think. The band was originally formed in 1989 as a trio, childhood friends, Tony Thompson, Russell Neal, and Oklahoma native Toriano Easley. Jive Records suggested adding childhood friends, Roderick Pooh Clark and Marcus Sanders, to the ensemble and later signed these founding members as High Five. During the release of their debut album, Toriano Easley was charged with a crime, which involved a dispute with his neighborhood friends, rendering him unable to continue with the group. The record label recruited New York native Treston Irby as a replacement member. After the release of their second album, Russell Neal left the group after financial conflicts with the label.
Russell Neal shot to fame in the 90s with the R&B group High Five. But now, more than 20 years later, he's making news for another reason. One that has people in shock.
Now, talking about Russell Neal, who shocked everyone. In the summer of 2014, when he walked into a police station and told the officers that his wife was dead, he asked for a lawyer right away. He didn't cry, he didn't look upset, he just sat there and waited to be taken in. This was strange to many people, because he didn't act like someone who had just lost a loved one. This calm behavior made people think something wasn't right. Russell's wife was Catherine Martinez. She was only 24 years old. Catherine was full of life. She was a fitness model and wanted to become a professional boxer. People knew her by the name Brasilia. She was young, beautiful, and strong.
She was very ambitious. She was very fun, energetic, and honest.
It doesn't matter how hard she had to fight to do it, it would get done.
And it did.
And it did.
But her life ended in a very violent way. When the police went to their apartment, they found the door locked. They had to break it down to get inside. What they found was heartbreaking. Catherine was lying dead on the floor in the living room. She had been stabbed many times. Her head also had serious injuries from being hit very hard. Her body was covered with a blanket, almost as if someone tried to hide what had been done.
She was beaten and stabbed.
The police later said that Catherine had died from all the stab wounds and the blows to her head. The scene was very sad and painful to see. Her body was badly hurt. Catherine's family was crushed. Her mother, Mary Figueroa, later said that the only way she could recognize her daughter was by her smile and her teeth. She said, "You couldn't recognize her face. The only thing I knew was her mouth, the way she smiled." No parent should ever have to go through something like that.
With Russell, I don't know where this person that we're now sitting here talking about, I don't know where and how that person came into existence.
The heartbreaking aftermath. Russell Neal's sons in custody. What made things even more disturbing was what happened with the couple's children. Russell and Catherine had 2 small boys. They were inside the apartment when the murder happened. Catherine's family believes that one of the kids walked out of his room while the attack was going on. They said that Russell told the child that the blood on his shoes was ketchup. He then told the child to go back to his room. This shows how cold and heartless he had become. A father is supposed to protect his children, not put them in the middle of such horror.
They heard her screaming for her life.
Yes.
Her little boys.
Yes. They were there.
They were there when it happened.
And I believe one of them walked out because he talks about it. He has
He has nightmares.
After Russell told the police about Catherine's death, they arrested him without any trouble. He didn't fight or try to run. One witness said he wasn't resisting. He didn't say anything. He just calmly walked out in handcuffs and got in the police car. Later, Russell was charged with murder. He was released on a $100,000 bond, which surprised many people. Some thought he should have stayed in jail until his trial. In 2015, more drama happened. Russell was supposed to show up for court, but he didn't go. Earlier that day, police were called to the place he was staying in Waco, Texas. Someone said that Russell was acting strange and might hurt himself. When the police arrived, they talked to him and then left because the court time had not passed yet. But after he missed his court date, the police returned and arrested him again. This made things worse for him. At this point, people started asking questions about Russell's mental state. He began to act very strange. He said he was no longer Russell Neal. He told people to call him Jesus Christ. Because of this, the court said he was not mentally fit to stand trial. They sent him to Rusk State Hospital, a mental hospital in Texas. But Catherine's family didn't believe it. Her sister, Amy, said, "He's trying to play crazy." They believed Russell was faking mental illness to avoid going to prison.
You sat there with her for 2 days to make sure her life was gone. And then you decided to turn yourself in. So you're not incompetent, you're not crazy, you know exactly what you did.
Catherine's murder shocked the music world and the fans of High Five. Russell used to be a young star. In the 1990s, High Five was a big deal. They had hit songs and lots of fans. People thought Russell was the clean-cut good guy of the group. But now, all of that was gone. The man who once sang love songs was now facing charges for killing his wife. The fall from fame was quick and ugly.
He's not crazy. No. He's not. She's gonna get justice.
Catherine's family said she was trying to leave him. They said the relationship was not good. She wanted to be independent. She wanted to grow in her career and be a strong woman. Sadly, she never got the chance to do that. After the murder, the two young boys were placed in the care of Russell's mother. This was another sad part of the story. Two children lost their mother in a horrible way, and their father was taken away from them. Their lives were changed forever. So let's go back to where it all started. Back in the day, the group High Five was made up of young guys. They were all minors, which means they were under 18. Because of that, they couldn't travel alone. They needed an adult, like a parent or guardian, to come with them everywhere. Imagine 10 people going on tour and every one of them needing someone older to be with them. That's a lot of people. Sometimes they wish they could travel by themselves. They felt ready, but the rules didn't allow it. Even though they were becoming famous, they were still treated like kids. Their road manager at the time acted like a big brother. He was very serious and didn't let the boys do anything wild. He said no to after parties. He didn't want them hanging out with older celebrities who were drinking alcohol or smoking weed. So, while other people were out partying and having fun, High Five had to stay in. They weren't allowed to go anywhere that might get them into trouble. It was hard for them. Even though they had money, fame, and fans, they didn't feel free. They had to follow a schedule. They were told where to go and what to do. They couldn't make their own choices. Eventually, High Five decided to make a big change.
They wanted a manager more that they can control and do what they want to do. And I think that's basically what they got.
They wanted to take charge of their own careers. They didn't want to be controlled anymore. They made the choice to fire their managers, Vinnie Bell and Robert Ford. These were the people who had been guiding their careers, but High Five didn't feel like they were being treated right. They wanted more freedom and a better deal, so they hired their road manager, Jonathan Kinlock, to become their new manager. He was someone they trusted and felt they could work with. It was a bold move for such a young group.
They felt that they wanted to have a sense of freedom because they were signed to a production company that pretty much managed the budget. They wanted to have more control and a better contract, and they didn't feel that the previous managers were providing that for them.
They were also upset with their record label, Giant. Even though their songs were selling well and they were making the label a lot of money, High Five wasn't seeing much of it. They had what is called recoupable expenses. That means any money the label spent on things like hotels or food had to be paid back by the group, even if the hotel charged a lot because they were on the phone all night with their girlfriends. It went on the bill, and that bill kept growing. The label would pay for it at first, but then take the money out of what the group earned. So they kept making music, but their pockets were still empty.
They were selling a lot of records, but the guys were unrecouped. In other words, they had money that they had to pay to the label first. That's pretty much the way that the industry is structured.
People on the outside would say things like, "You should be rich by now." They had a hit song that went to #1, so people thought they were millionaires. But that wasn't true. A regular teenager working at Foot Locker probably had more money than they did. They were famous, but broke. The costs kept adding up, and the group was left wondering where all the money went.
He had the #1 song in the country, but the average kid who probably had a full-time job at Foot Locker was probably having more money in his bank account in pocket than we were.
At one point, Russell said he had enough. He didn't want to keep working if no one was going to be honest about the money. He told the group they should stop doing shows and events until the label sat down with them and showed them the truth about the money. At first, it seemed like a good idea. It felt right to finally demand answers. But after thinking it over, they realized things are not always so simple. Sometimes you have to keep going and fight for change slowly.
It did make sense to say, okay, we should take that route. But I think as we slept on it and we really thought about it, sometimes you have to roll with the punches.
Russell felt strongly, though. He didn't want to be paid with just fame, free trips, nice hotel rooms, or pictures in magazines. He wanted real money for the work he was doing. He wanted to feel respected and treated fairly. And when it came time to shoot a new music video for their song, She's Playing Hard to Get, the group flew to New York, but Russell didn't go. He stayed behind to make his point. He was tired of being used without being paid properly. Even though he was gone, the rest of the group decided to keep going. They made a promise to continue their tour along the East Coast. They were now a group of 4, but they were still excited and hopeful. They were happy that day, driving down the highway, singing, laughing, and feeling good about their journey. They were headed to a radio station. Everything seemed fine. Then, suddenly, something terrible happened. A car hit them from behind. The crash was hard, and the van rolled over. It was scary. Everyone in the van jumped up from where they were sitting or lying down. There was shouting, confusion, and fear. One of the members saw that something was wrong with his friend, Roderick "Pooh" Clark. He told Pooh to get up, but Pooh just looked at him and said, I can't feel my legs." After the crash, they found out that Pooh was paralyzed from the chest down.
"Come on, get out. Car, Pooh, come on." And he looked at me and he said, "I can't, Kimmy. I can't feel my legs."
He would never walk again. It was very sad. When Kim got home, he went into his room, got on his knees, and prayed for his friend. The whole group was deeply hurt. They stayed in the hospital with Pooh for about 2 weeks. They cried, they prayed, and they hoped for a miracle. They were getting offers from other record companies because their deal with Jive Records was almost over. Their contract was for 3 albums, and it was coming to an end. The group wanted to see what other options they had. It wasn't easy. The record company didn't know what the group was going to do. Would they stay or leave? In the end, High Five signed with Giant Records.
We ended up with Giant Records, and there was a signing bonus.
Each member got a signing bonus of $60,000. That should have been a happy moment, but something went wrong. Neal said that the others decided to cut his share of the money. They reminded him that he didn't go with them to Miami at one point. They said because of that, they would fine him. Instead of getting $60,000, he would only get $30,000, and the other $30,000 would be split between the rest of the group. Neal was upset. He looked at them and said, "You know what? Not only can you have that money, you can have this group too." And with that, he left High Five for good.
I looked him in the eye. I said, "Man, not only can you have that 30 grand, you can have this group."
After Neal left, the group added 2 new members, Shannon Gill and Terrence Murphy. High Five had more success. Their song, Never Should Have Let You Go, became a top 10 hit. That made it their 6th top 10 hit overall. But even with the hit song, their 3rd album, Faithful, didn't do as well. It didn't reach the top 20 on the music charts. Even though it was a good album, it didn't sell well. One big reason was the lack of promotion. The record label didn't spend a lot of money to promote the album. Without promotion, fans didn't hear about it. Even great music won't sell if people don't know it exists. The group felt disappointed. They made a choice to go to another record label, but later they realized that maybe it wasn't the best choice. Things only got harder from there. Back when they signed with Giant Records, the label showed more interest in one person, Tony Thompson. They wanted Tony to be a solo star. The label promised to make a Tony Thompson album and a High Five album. But Tony's solo album would come first. This caused problems. It is not unusual for a lead singer to go solo, but when that happens, the rest of the group is often left behind. High Five tried to add a new member to keep things moving. They didn't want to wait too long, but every time they talked to the record label, they were told the same thing: we need Tony. In the end, the label never made another High Five album. They only cared about Tony. So, just like that, the group's journey was over. They didn't get a chance to keep going. The group felt it was best to go home and take a break. They didn't know what would come next. But Tony Thompson also had his own struggles.
Tone was like 14. Me and Russ was like 16 going on 17, right?
Right.
And we get inside the club, man.
Right.
Drinking inside the club at that age.
There were things he was dealing with that the other members helped him hide from the label. Even though the world saw them as stars, behind the scenes, they had pain, problems, and secrets. Tony was a very talented singer, but he had a hard life behind the scenes. He hid many things from the public. People didn't know he had a serious problem. At first, it started small. He used a few drugs here and there. Like many people in the music world.
You guys were young in this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And you know, that's another thing. When you young, man, you know, it's fast, man. It's drugs and rock and roll, man.
His friends said they all tried drugs at some point, but they were lucky. By the grace of God, they didn't get trapped in it like Tony did. Tony couldn't stop, and things got worse. His drug use became heavy, and he started using cocaine. When he was with his friends, they kept an eye on him. But when Tony was alone, he made bad choices. That's when his life started falling apart.
When you're young, though, man, you know, you see so much, man. And sometimes you can get drained down too, because
Tony tried to make a solo album. Sadly, that album did not do well. It didn't even reach the top 40 music chart. Because of that, the record label, Giant Records, dropped him.
Tony's album was a dope-ass album.
It really was.
Okay? There wasn't no hate here. That shit was a dope-ass album.
That was a big hit to his career. Still, he didn't give up. He tried again and signed with Puffy Combs' Bad Boy Records. People thought this would be his big comeback, but his drug problems got in the way again. The project with Bad Boy Records didn't work out either. Tony went to rehab, and there were some interventions. His friends and family tried to help him. But by then, things were too far gone. The drugs had taken a strong hold on him. In 2005, Tony came back with a new group under the name High Five. This new version had one old member, Terrence Murphy, and 3 new members. Tony hoped this would be a fresh start. He wanted to support his family and his son. He believed this comeback could help him fix his life. But the other original High Five members were not happy. They felt Tony was using the group's name in the wrong way. The group name meant a lot to them. They had worked hard to build that name and image. Now, Tony had new people using that same name, and they didn't represent the group the same way. The other members believed it was unfair to the fans and to their legacy. Because of this, Tristan, Marcus, and Russell, 3 original High Five members, decided to take legal action. They went to court and got papers to stop Tony from using the High Five name. This meant he had to stop selling the new album. When Tony got the court papers, he was shocked and hurt. He felt betrayed. He said, "How can you do this to me? I gave everything I had to this group, and now when I try again, you won't let me." It broke his heart. Tony lived for music. Singing was all he knew. It was his life, his passion, and his way of coping with pain. When the group turned their backs on him, he didn't know what to do next. He was lost and confused. In 2007, something good almost happened. Tristan and Marcus reached out to Tony. They wanted to bring the old High Five back together. They were ready to forgive and rebuild what they had before. It looked like Tony might get another chance to do what he loved, but sadly, that chance never came. Not long after that, Tony was found dead. The coroner's report said he died from breathing in Freon, which is a chemical used in air conditioners. It also showed that he had methadone in his system. Tony was only 31 years old when he died. He had so much talent, but his battle with drugs and personal pain ended his life too soon.
Okay.
Shout out to my brothers, man. Shout out to High Five right there. Rest in peace to my man, Tony Thompson.
Absolutely.
Also, there were rumored feuds between High Five and Boyz II Men that came up around the same time. Both were R&B groups with young male singers, but Boyz II Men became very famous very fast. They were on the radio all the time, and their songs topped the charts. Because of this, some people in the media started talking about a rivalry. They made it sound like High Five and Boyz II Men didn't get along, even though High Five had hits too. People paid more attention to Boyz II Men. This made things hard for High Five. Some fans and music people believed there was tension between the two groups, even if the groups never said anything bad about each other. In 2013, High Five tried to make a comeback. They wanted to get the group back together, but it was not easy. Some old members didn't want to return. Others had moved on to different things. There were also arguments inside the group. Because of all this, the reunion didn't work out the way they hoped. The group couldn't find the same success they had before. It was hard for them to get people excited about their music again. After Tony passed away, his last wish was for High Five to keep going. Members Marcus Sanders, Tristan Irby, and Shannon Gill wanted to honor that wish. They started rebuilding the group through Irby's label, Bronx Most Wanted. They reached out to other old members, hoping they would join again. But Terrence Murphy said no. He chose to work with another former member, Toriano Easley, and the group's old managers. To bring in fresh energy, cousins Farouk Evans and Billy Covington joined. Evans had a smooth voice and already helped with a past song. Covington added emotion and strength. With Irby, they hoped to give High Five a bright future.